She threatened to have my family arrested for using her lake. 3 days later, I handed her an eviction notice for the house she'd lived in for 12 years. It's dawn in northern Michigan. Mist rolling off pristine water. My 9-year-old daughter Zoe's clutching her fishing rod, confused and scared. Sheriff's cruiser crunching up my gravel driveway. And there's Darlene Crestwood, 58, bleached highlights, head-o-toe, Ralph Lauren, pointing at us from her manicured lawn like we're criminals. All because we dared to fish on our own property. What Darlene didn't know, she'd been running a fake HOA for 8 years, collecting $34,000 from neighbors, and I owned the roads to 6 houses, including hers. Drop a comment. What would you do if a Karen called the cops on your kid for fishing? And where are you watching from? I bet half of you are trapped under HOA tyrants right now. Let me back up 6 months. My name is Marcus Whitfield. I'm 43. Used to be a commercial real estate analyst before I sold my consulting firm and semi-retired. Recently divorced, amicable, nothing messy, joint custody of Zoe. I moved to Lake Harmon, Michigan for what I thought would be a simpler life. Population 3,200. Quiet, peaceful. I bought this modest 1970s ranch house on Lakeshore Drive for $340,000. It needed work, sure, but it had 200 feet of waterfront. When I walked through for the first time, the place smelled like pine cleaner and old carpet. But standing on that back deck, looking out at the lake with the morning mist, tasting clean and metallic, I knew this was home. Here's the thing about me. I grew up working-ass Detroit. My dad was a union electrician, taught me everything about reading contracts and finding the fine print. That's how I built my career, finding hidden value in distressed properties. I bought this Lake Harmon house sight unseen during the divorce fog. The realtor, this guy Earl, mentioned something about quirky neighborhood politics, but I waved it off. How bad could it be? Zoe loved the lake immediately. It was the only bright spot during the custody transition. I spent those first weeks doing DIY repairs, replaced dock boards, patched the roof. I can still smell that tar, feel those splinters under my fingernails. Good, honest work. Then I met Darlene Crestwood. She's the self-appointed president of something called the Lake Harmon Shores Preservation Committee. Her husband Roland runs the local insurance agency. Total town fixture, Rotary Club, Township Board connections, the whole deal. They live in the biggest house on the block. Victorian renovation. 4,800 feet, worth about $890,000. She's got 3 adult kids. None of them live locally anymore, and she overcompensates with control. Drives a white Lexus SUV with a vanity plate that says LK Shore 1. Week 2, Darlene comes clicking down my dock in her heels. That sharp, aggressive sound on the wood planks. You'll need to submit a waterfront usage application to the committee, she says, all smiles. We manage lake access to protect property values. I'm confused. I own waterfront. It's a public lake. She thrusts this 3-page document at me. $500 annual maintenance fee. Rules about dock colors, boat size limits, guest restrictions. I politely declined. This is a public lake. I own my shoreline. Her smile froze. The air got thick with her perfume. Overwhelming gardenias, chemically sweet, almost nauseating. Everyone who matters participates, she said, emphasizing that word matters like a threat. You'll regret making waves. I Googled Lake Harmon HOA that night, found nothing registered with the county, called Earl the realtor. Oh yeah, he laughed nervously. Darlene's thing. Most people just pay to avoid the hassle. My instinct told me something was off, but I wanted peaceful life for Zoe. I filed away the property survey I'd found during dock repairs, partially buried marker with faded county recorder stamps, and decided to ignore Darlene. She'd move on, right? Wrong. My neighbor, 2 houses down, Betty Alomar, retired teacher, 71, stopped by with homemade cookies. The texture of that heavy cardboard she'd packed them in, the warmth still radiating through. Welcome to the neighborhood, she said quietly. Then she glanced toward Darlene's house, nervous. Just a heads up, Darlene doesn't handle no well. My husband and I learned that the hard way. I asked her to elaborate. She wouldn't, just patted my hand and left. I should have paid more attention to that warning. 3 weeks pass. Zoe and I are settling in. It's a Saturday morning, maybe 700 a.m. The air's cool, that early September chill. I've got coffee in my thermos. You can smell it mixing with the lake water, that earthy combination. We're on the dock and I'm teaching Zoe to cast. The water's so quiet you can hear the line whisper through the air. Then Darlene marches down in athletic wear and a sun visor, purposeful stride like she's on a mission. "You're in violation of quiet hours," she announces. "No waterfront activity before 9 a.m. I look at her, trying to stay calm. "Darlene, there's no HOA here. We're just fishing." She pulls out her phone and starts taking pictures. The camera clicks are audible, deliberate. "You're disturbing the ecosystem and violating community standards." I'm documenting everything. Then she pulls out this laminated card. Lake Harmon Covenant rules printed to look official. Claims all properties signed back in 1987 when the subdivision was developed. I never signed anything. I said your property is bound by prior agreements. Check your title. Now, here's something everyone should know. Covenants and deed restrictions must be recorded with the county to be enforceable. If someone waves a document at you, ask for the recording number. No recording, no legal standing. Period. Monday morning, I'm at the county recorder's office. The place smells musty. Decades of archived documents packed into file cabinets. The clerk, friendly woman named Janine, helps me pull everything on Lakeshore Drive. 0 recorded HOA documents, 0 restrictive covenants after 1985, and even those expired. The original covenant was generic. No exotic paint colors, minimum square footage requirements, nothing about lake usage, nothing about fees, nothing about committees. Janine confirmed it. If it's not recorded here, it doesn't run with the property. Basic real estate law. I printed the official records and wrote Darlene a polite letter, kept a copy for myself, hand-delivered it to her mailbox. Per county records, no HOA or restrictions exist. Please stop misrepresenting legal status. We'll continue using our property as we see fit. 2 days later, Roland shows up at my door. It's evening and the porch lights attracting moths. You can hear them smacking against the bulb. Chaotic little impacts. Roland's got this practiced insurance agent smile, but his cologne hits me first. Woody, expensive, overpowering in the small porch space. "Marcus, let's be reasonable." He says the fee helps maintain neighborhood quality. Think of it like voluntary community investment. His tone shifts halfway through. Less friendly, more threatening. "Darlene's just protecting our property values. Your house, well, it needs work. Wouldn't want code enforcement noticing issues." I felt my jaw clench, tasted that metallic anger. "Are you threatening to sick the township on me?" "Just friendly advice between neighbors." His handshake when he left was too firm, dominance play. Next morning, township inspector's truck in my driveway. The inspector, Daryl, 50 seconds apologetic type, says he got a complaint about unpermitted dock work. He examines everything, finds nothing wrong. "Yeah, you're fine," he tells me. "Between you and me, we get a lot of calls from Lakeshore Drive. I think someone has the non-emergency number on speed dial." That's when I realized Darlene has connections. She's willing to weaponize bureaucracy. This isn't about neighborhood harmony. This is about power. I reassured Zoe everything was fine, but internally my competitive instincts activated. The same drive that made me successful in real estate was waking up. If Darlene wants to play games with fake authority, I need to understand what's really happening here. I started keeping a detailed log. Dates, times, interactions, photos, everything documented. You know what's funny? Darlene thought she was intimidating me, but every move she made, every threat, every fake document, she was building my case for me. People who abuse authority always make the same mistake. They think documentation protects them. They're wrong. Documentation protects the person smart enough to collect it. Week later, I'm noticing something weird. Neighbors are avoiding eye contact. Betty, the woman who brought me cookies, stops returning my waves. I get this anonymous note in my mail. Printed. No signature. Troublemakers don't last long here. Sell now while you can. The paper rattled in my hand. I could hear my pulse in my ears. Then Zoe comes home from school upset. Her classmate's mom, Cheryl Vincent, uninvited her from a Halloween party. She said her mom heard we're problem people, Zoe tells me, and I can see her fighting back tears. Darlene's running a whisper campaign. I started talking to neighbors discreetly. The pattern emerged fast. 5 families on this block have been paying Darlene's fees for 5 to 8 years. I did the math. That's over $20,000 collected, maybe more. I asked them why they paid. The ANS. Words varied, but the theme was consistent. Easier than fighting. Roland insures most of their homes. There's an implicit threat there. Darlene orchestrates social exclusion, book clubs, holiday parties, community events. One neighbor, Greg Hawthorne, he's a plumber, fought back once suddenly couldn't get township permits for his business truck parking. This is textbook extortion hidden as volunteerism. Real HOAs have elections, financial disclosures, accountability. One person collecting money with no oversight. That's just theft with extra steps. I contacted the Michigan Attorney General's Office, Consumer Protection Division. They were interested. Darlene's committee has no legal structure, no tax filings, no incorporation documents. If she's collecting fees under false pretenses, that's fraud, but they need a formal complaint with evidence. I decided to attend Darlene's monthly committee meeting, uninvited. Wednesday evening, I walk into her house, massive dining room, overwhelming floral wallpaper, chandelier too bright, scented candles everywhere, vanilla bourbon, clawing smell that coats the back of your throat. 7 neighbors are sitting uncomfortably in Victorian chairs. Darlene's presiding like it's a corporate board meeting. Spreadsheet, printed agenda, the whole performance. The antique clock on the mantel ticks in the silence. Since I'm a property owner, I said, I'd like to see the committee's incorporation papers and financial statements. You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone just stared. The temperature in that room. She had the heat cranked up, probably on purpose. Discomfort as intimidation. Darlene's voice went cold. These meetings are for members only. You're trespassing. Or your email invitation said all Lakeshore Drive residents. That's me. So, where are the financials? She called the sheriff's department. Roland has connections there too. Deputy Shane Morrison shows up. Young guy, early 22nds, clearly uncomfortable. Darlene claims I'm harassing her in her own home. I explained calmly that I responded to an open invitation just asking about financials. Deputy Shane pulled me aside outside. Sir, I'd recommend leaving. Crestwoods have a lot of pull around here. I left, but I noted the legal system's already biased. Driving home, my knuckles were white on the steering wheel. This wasn't just a neighborhood spat anymore. This was about power, control, and a system rigged for people like Darlene. I thought about Zoe being excluded. Neighbors, too, scared to speak up. And I made a decision. I'm not backing down, but I need to be smarter. Late that night, laptop screen glowing cold coffee cup beside me, I started pulling property records for the entire Lakeshore Drive block. That's when I found something interesting. The original subdivision developer, Harmon Lakeside LLC, went bankrupt in 1993. Assets sold at auction. Question: who bought what at that auction? I added it to my research list. Something about that bankruptcy nagged at me. Real estate assets don't just disappear. Someone always ends up owning them. And in my experience, ownership is power. The clock on my wall read 1:30 a.m. My eyes burned from staring at county records. But I was close to something. I could feel it the way you feel a storm coming. That change in air pressure, that static charge. Darlene thought she was untouchable. She thought her husband's connections, her social status, her 12 years of neighborhood dominance made her invincible. She had no idea what was coming. Saturday morning, we're back to the scene from the opening. Zoe and I are fishing from the dock. 6:30 a.m., pre-dawn light, mist on the water, that smell of algae and earth mixing together. Peaceful. Then Darlene appears from the treen path. Lululemon outfit, coffee tumble. Expression of pure triumph. "I warned you about quiet hours," she says. "You're also trespassing on shared lakefront. This is my property. There are no shared areas. The waterfront is collectively owned by the committee. Check the original plat map." She pulls out her phone. "I'm calling the sheriff. You're trespassing and endangering a minor on restricted property." I couldn't believe it. "You're calling the police on a father and daughter fishing. You were warned. Actions have consequences." 20 minutes later, Sheriff Tom Braddock pulls up. He's 55, gray temples, looks tired like he's seen too much small-town drama. Zoe's clinging to my arm. Her hand is cold, trembling. Darlene goes into full performance mode. Sweet voice, damsel in distress. This man refuses to follow neighborhood rules, harasses me in my home, and now he's using restricted waterfront after repeated warnings. I stay calm. "Sheriff, I own this property, including waterfront. There's no HOA, no legal restrictions. I have county records to prove it." Braddock looks uncomfortable. "Sir, if there's a property dispute, this is civil court, not criminal." But Mrs. Crestwood filed a formal complaint. Police hate being pulled into civil disputes. It's not their job. But when someone with connections makes a complaint, they have to respond. This is why you document everything, stay calm, and never let them go you into an outburst. That's what they want. On what legal basis can she restrict my use of my own waterfront? I asked. Braddock turned to Darlene. "Ma'am, do you have documentation showing shared ownership?" She fumbled, showed her laminated covenant, the fake one with no legal weight. Braddock recognized it was nonsense, but he's politically constrained. This needs to be resolved through proper channels. "Mr. Whitfield, maybe keep the peace until sheriff. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm using my property. If Mrs. Crestwood has a legal claim, she should file a lawsuit. Otherwise, this is harassment. Tense standoff. The lake water lapping the dock. Morning birds chirping. Peaceful scene. Absurd tension." Braddock pulled me aside away from Darlene. Quietly. "Look, I know how this seems. The Crestwoods contribute to the sheriff's election fund. I have to respond to complaints, but between us, you're right. This is civil, not criminal. My advice? Get a lawyer, document everything, and maybe don't fish before 8 a.m. for a while. Reading between the lines, the system is compromised. Fighting fair won't work." As Braddock left, Darlene made sure her voice carried to the neighbors watching from their windows. "Maybe now you'll learn to respect community standards. This neighborhood has values. 4 neighbors on porches watching. None intervened. All looked away when I made eye contact." Zoe was crying. "Daddy, why is she so mean?" I took her inside, made her favorite breakfast. Blueberry pancakes, mechanical movements while my mind raced. After she calmed down, I went back to my research. Every polite attempt had failed. Every proper channel was compromised. I contacted an old colleague, Simone Traz, forensic title researcher from my real estate days. She specialized in finding hidden clouds on property titles, foreclosures, tax liens, ownership gaps. "I need you to trace every property on this block back to original ownership." "Everything," I told her. "Looking for leverage?" she asked. "Looking for truth. Leverage is just a bonus." Simone worked for 3 days rush job. I paid premium rates. When the report arrived, 40 pages printed, office smelling like hot toner, I sat at my kitchen table at 11 p.m. with cold coffee. And there it was. The bankruptcy auction in 1993. MLW Holdings LLC purchased the developer remaining assets for $47,000. Assets included all private roads on Lakeshore Drive, 1 vacant Lake F, rent lot, easement rights, and the original subdivision's management rights. MLW Holdings went dormant after the purchase. No activity for 30 years. I cross-referenced with State Business Registry. Company never dissolved. Still technically exists. Then I found it in my father's estate papers. Papers from when he died 5 years ago. MLW Holdings LLC had been transferred to him in 2008 as part of his union pension fund settlement. When he passed, the estate transferred to me. I inherited it without even knowing. It was listed as miscellaneous Michigan real estate asset, no value in probate. Nobody followed up. I owned the private roads. I owned the subdivision management rights. I owned the 80-oot strip between Darlene's house and the public road. I called Simone at midnight. "Are you absolutely sure?" I triple-checked. "You own the roads. You own the access. Hell, Marcus, you could technically dissolve the subdivision structure if you wanted. You're not just a property owner. You're the developer of record." I smiled for the first time in weeks. Then I paused. This was thermonuclear leverage. It needed to be used carefully. I'm sitting at my kitchen table staring at documents that just rewrote everything. The papers feel brittle, yellowed, nearly falling apart. They smell musty. Decades in storage. My father's signature is on the transfer document. That familiar loop of the M and Matthew. Brief moment of grief mixed with gratitude. Let me walk you through what I found, because this is where the story pivots. Original developer Harmon Lakeside LLC created the subdivision in 1983. Built 12 homes on the lakefront, including mine and Darlene's standard setup. Developer retained ownership of private roads, common areas, typical subdivision structure. 1993 real estate crash. Harmon Lakeside files. Chapter 11 bankruptcy. County holds a foreclosure auction. Sells the developer remaining G assets in one bundled lot. Winning bidder MLW Holdings LLC purchased for $47,000. Simone's note said she had to dig through 3 layers of county archives. The original auction paperwork literally had coffee stains, she wrote. Nobody's looked at this in decades. Here's what MLW Holdings acquired. All private roads on Lakeshore Drive, 1 vacant lakefront lot, easement rights, and the original subdivision's management rights. I traced MLW Holdings through State Business Registry, created by my father's union pension fund as an investment vehicle. After the pension fund restructured in the 2000s, small assets like MLW transferred to individual pensioners. My father, Matthew Whitfield, received it in 2008 as part of his pension settlement. When he died in 2018, estate passed to me. Only child I inherited without knowing. In probate, it was listed as worthless. No property appraiser followed up. Foreclosure auctions are public record, but often poorly maintained. People buy properties for pennies, then decades later discover they became valuable, or that they include critical access rights like roads and easements. Always check what's buried in your own family's assets. You might be surprised what you actually own. What this means practically, I own the roads. I own the subdivision management rights. That vacant lot Simone mentioned, it's the 80-foot strip between Darlene's house and the public road. Darlene's access is via private easement that I now control. I read the documents 5 times, called Simone at midnight to triple-check. She confirmed every detail. My heartbeat was loud in the quiet house. I could feel it pounding in my chest, but I didn't act immediately. Darlene called the cops on my daughter. She's stolen from neighbors for 8 years. She's weaponized the system, but if I go nuclear without preparation, she'll fight back with everything she has. I needed to. Build the case carefully. Create leverage she couldn't escape. Then spring the trap publicly. I printed key documents, stored them in a safe deposit box. The bank smelled like carpet cleaner, fluorescent lights humming overhead, that institutional smell of money and security. Phase 2, the plan. I couldn't just evict Darlene. Legally possible, but it would make me the villain. My goal wasn't revenge, it was exposure, fraud documented, money recovered for neighbors, Darlene's power removed permanently. What I needed, evidence of financial fraud, witness testimony, and a public forum where she couldn't hide. I sat back in my chair, staring at my father's signature. He taught me about contracts, fine print, standing up for working people. He probably never imagined this Michigan investment would become my weapon against a neighborhood tyrant. But here we were. Darlene thought she was untouchable. 12 years of dominance, her husband's connections, social status, the big house with the perfect lawn. She had no idea the ground was about to open up beneath her. Over the next 2 weeks, I built my case like I used to build real estate deals, methodically covering every angle, anticipating every counter-move. First, documenting the fraud, I created an anonymous survey titled Lakeshore Drive Neighborhood Expenses, hand-delivered to all 11 neighbors, excluding Darlene's house. Simple questions. Have you paid fees? How much? What did you receive in return? 7 neighbors responded anonymously. They were scared of retaliation, but they responded. Total collected by Darlene over 8 years, $34,500. Supposed expenses, road maintenance, lake monitoring, legal fees, actual work done, 0. No paving, no legal services, no environmental testing, nothing. When someone's collecting money for the community, ask for receipts. Real HOAs must maintain financial records and make them available. E to members. No receipts equals red flag. No incorporation documents equals fraud. It's that simple. Second, building the legal foundation. I consulted an attorney, Preston Hall, 60 Seconds property law specialist. His office smelled like leather and old books, the kind of place where you know serious work gets done. Preston reviewed my ownership documents. This is airtight, he said. You control access to 6 properties, including Crestwoods. We discussed options. Civil suit for fraud. Slow, expensive. She could hide assets. Quiet title action. Establishes my rights, but doesn't address the theft. Criminal complaint. Hard to prosecute without AG. Preston's advice. Create a situation where she incriminates herself publicly. Get her on record claiming authority she doesn't have while witnesses listen. Third, recruiting allies. I approached Betty with the evidence. She's the retired teacher who brought me cookies that first week. Betty's story broke my heart. She paid Darlene $2,400 over 6 years. Promised road snow removal. Never happened. Her husband Larry plowed their own driveway until he died 3 years ago. After he passed, Betty kept paying because she was scared. Darlene said she'd make sure my driveway got cleared if I paid. Betty told me crying. It never did. Betty, I can end this, but I need people willing to speak up when the time comes. Steel entered her voice. What do you need? I met individually with neighbors over 2 weeks. Greg Hawthorne, the plumber, lost $8,000 in business because Darlene got his permits delayed. Alicia Fernwood, nurse who works nights, paid $500 a year, threatened with noise complaints if she refused. Tim and Jen Stalker, young couple with a new baby, paid $450 last year under pressure. 6 families total willing to testify, provide bank records, go public. Fourth, understanding Darlene's vulnerability. Her power is image, mansion, Lexus, social, status. Research revealed she and Roland are financially overextended. Mortgage on the house, $580,000 refinanced 3 years ago to pull equity out. Roland's insurance agency declining. Online competitors eating his market share. Property taxes on the mansion, $18,000 a year. 2 car loans. Home equity line of credit. People who flaunt wealth often live paycheck to paycheck in big houses. House rich, cash poor. They can't afford to lose that house because it's their entire identity. That's your leverage. Fifth, setting the trap. I sent Darlene a certified letter as a concerned property owner. Requested a special Lake Harmon Shores Preservation Committee meeting to address financial transparency and the 2024 budget. cited Michigan nonprofit corporation law even though her committee isn't legally incorporated. She doesn't know. I know that. Added, I'll be bringing my attorney and would like all financial records made available per state requirements. Certified mail receipt. Darlene had to sign for it. Proof of delivery. She scheduled the meeting. Can't refuse without looking guilty. Set it for her house. Control play. Invited only members who've paid fees. I responded. Michigan law requires open meetings for homeowner associations. I'll be inviting all property owners per statute. She can't refuse without admitting she's not a real HOA. Sixth, media involvement. I contacted the local newspaper, Lake Harmon Gazette weekly paper. Editor named Karen Sue, 40 seconds, hungry for real news. Pitched the story. Neighborhood extortion scheme disguised as HOA. Provided documents, ownership records, neighbor testimonies, financial accounting. Karen's eyes lit up. This is front page material. When's the confrontation? Next Tuesday, 7:00 p.m., bring a photographer. By Sunday night, everything was ready. I reviewed my checklist on a yellow legal pad using my father's old pen. Ownership documents C. Artified. Witnesses prepared. Attorney on standby. Media invited. Trap set. I thought Darlene's about to learn what happens when you pick on the wrong person. The smell of that fresh coffee. Properly eating for the first time in weeks. Grilled cheese and tomato soup. Comfort food. My mind settling into focus. Tuesday couldn't come fast enough. Week before the meeting, Darlene realized I was a serious threat. She launched an aggressive reputation attack. Roland started calling neighbors. Marcus Whitfield is trying to destroy our neighborhood property values with lawsuits. If you care about your home's worth, don't support him. Standard intimidation playbook. Darlene posted on the neighborhood Facebook group, Lake Harmon community page, concerned about new resident filing frivolous complaints against longtime community members. Some people move here and try to tear down what we've built. The comments were predictable. Half the neighborhood doesn't know what's really happening. They see Darlene's big house, her charity fundraisers, her status. They assume she's the good guy. Then Darlene filed another formal complaint with the township, claimed my dock was structurally unsafe and blocking navigation. Inspector Darrell returned, visibly annoyed. Mr. Whitfield, I'm sorry, this is the third bogus complaint. Your dock's fine. Can I file harassment charges? I asked. He looked uncomfortable. Technically, yes, but the Crestwoods have friends on the township board. My boss would kill me. Even people sympathetic to me are trapped in the system. But Darlene crossed a line I didn't think she would. She contacted Zoe's school anonymously, but I traced it. Claimed concerns about home environment, suggested I was unstable, creating a hostile neighborhood situation. School counselor Mrs. Pacheco called me in for a meeting. Her office smelled like dry erase markers. Child artwork covered the walls. I could see one of Zoe's drawings, the lake with our dock. We received an anonymous concern, Mrs. Pacheco said, clearly uncomfortable. I'm required to follow up. Is everything okay at home? My hands were sweating, clenched in my lap. I explained the situation, provided documentation. Mrs. Pacheco was sympathetic. This sounds like adult conflict, not a child safety issue. I'll note that, but please resolve this before it escalates further. Outside, the school bell rang. Children's voices in the hallway. Normal life. Such a contrast to the ugliness of adult games. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Fury, controlled, and dangerous. Darlene weaponized Child Protective Services. That's beyond neighborhood dispute. That's malicious. I met with Preston Hall. She just tried to imply I'm an unfit parent. That's a line you don't cross. Preston nodded grimly. Good. That shows desperation and intent to harm. Document everything. When she falls, she needs to fall hard enough she can't get back up. I intensified my research. Pulled Roland's business licenses, insurance agency complaints, property tax payment history. Found something interesting. Crestwoods are 3 months behind on property taxes. $4,500 owed. Roland's insurance agency has 2 formal complaints with state regulators. Breach of fiduciary duty. Then the big one. Darlene's Preservation Committee bank account. I had Preston subpoena it. Current balance $12,000. Wait. Neighbors paid $34,500 total. Where the other $22,000 go? Account showed withdrawals, administrative expenses, consulting fees, office supplies, reality. Darlene's been paying herself a salary from neighbors' fees. $800 a month to DK Consulting Darlene Crestwood, $1,200 in administrative fees with no receipts. $3,500 to her neighbor's son for divorce advice. Unrelated legal work. $2,000 charged to a luxury furniture store labeled as office supplies. Woo! Someone controls money without oversight. Always follow the withdrawals. Administrative expenses with no receipts. That's embezzlement. Real nonprofits require 2 signatures on checks, annual audits, and public financial statements. This had none of that. I shared findings with my 6 neighbor allies. We met at Betty's house, her living room, afternoon light coming through lace curtains, smell of tea brewing. Betty stared at the documents. She's been stealing from us while threatening us. Greg, the plumber, shook his head. That money was supposed to maintain the roads. I've been patching potholes myself for 3 years. Group anger crystallized into resolve. Tuesday night, I said, everyone shows up. Bring your bank statements showing payments. We're ending this. Monday, day before the meeting, Darlene sent an email to all committee members. Subject, emergency vote, expulsion of hostile resident. She proposed an emergency resolution to ban me from committee meetings. Claimed I was litigious, threatening, undermining community harmony. Asked for email votes before Tuesday. Preston forwarded it back to me, laughing. She's creating a paper trail of her own fraud. You can't expel someone from a fake organization. This is gold, I replied all. Looking forward to Tuesday's meeting. I'll be bringing documentation of all committee finances, legal structure, and property ownership. See everyone at 7:00 p.m., listed agenda items, financial transparency, legal status verification, property rights clarification. Darlene couldn't back down now without admitting defeat. Monday night I couldn't sleep. Mind racing, checking documents again. Zoe asked if I was okay. Yeah, sweetheart, just some grown-up stuff. Tomorrow everything gets better. Is the mean lady going to leave us alone? I held my daughter close. Yes, I promised this wasn't just about winning anymore. It was about safety, Juice. Tice. Setting an example. Tuesday morning, I woke at 5 a.m., adrenaline replacing sleep. Reviewed documents one final time at the kitchen table. Everything organized in manila folders. Preston Hall arrived at 9 with his paralegal and video recording equipment. We're documenting everything, he said. If she incriminates herself, we want it on record. Smell of fresh brewed coffee. I'd made a full pot. Nervous energy. Sound of Preston's leather briefcase snapping open. Expensive. Authoritative. The documents felt heavy in my hands. Property records on thick cardstock. Bank statements thin and damning. Legal filings crisp. I couldn't eat breakfast. Mouth dry, stomach tight. From my window, I observed Darlene's house buzzing with activity. Catering van arrived. She's serving refreshments, performing sophistication. Roland pacing in the driveway. Aggressive gestures on his phone, calling in favors. Darlene in the window adjusting curtains. Everything must look perfect. 5 p.m. Roland approached my house. Aggressive. Dropped all pretense. You need to withdraw your accusations. Darlene's prepared to file defamation charges. You're new here. You don't understand how things work. Actually, I understand exactly how things work. See you at 7. You're making a mistake. We have attorneys too. I smiled calmly. Great. Bring them. 6 p.m. Sheriff Tom Brady's cruiser pulled up. He looked apologetic. Mr. Whitfield, I got a call. There might be a disturbance at tonight's meeting. Just want everyone to stay calm. Sheriff, I appreciate you stopping by. I'll be calm. I'm just bringing documents. Feel free to attend. It's a public meeting about neighborhood finances. He read between the lines. Property dispute, fraud actually, but I'm letting the evidence speak for itself. Something shifted in his expression. He didn't say he'd stop me, didn't defend Darlene. Cracks forming in her sup. Port. I texted my 6 neighbor allies. Everyone still good for tonight? All confirmed. Betty added, my hands are shaking, but I'm ready. Larry would be proud. Greg, bringing my receipts and photos of potholes. Darlene ignored while collecting road fees. 6:45. Karen Sue from the newspaper parked discreetly 2 houses down. Young photographer with her Canon DSLR telephoto lens. She texted, we're here. Won't intervene, just document. Good luck. 7:00 p.m. Marcus Preston and the 6 neighbors arrived at Darlene's house. Front door wide open. Darlene standing in the foyer, rehearsed gracious hostess. Living room arranged like a corporate board meeting. Darlene at the head of the table in a Victorian throne-like chair. Nameplates for committee members. Refreshment table with cookies, coffee, wine, the whole performance. 10 people already seated. 7 fee-paying neighbors plus 3 I didn't recognize. I entered and saw the strangers. Marcus, these are our attorneys from Cranston and Wells, Darlene announced. 3 lawyers, expensive suits, leather portfolios, recording device. Message clear. Overwhelming legal force, Preston whispered. She's panicking. Innocent people don't need 3 lawyers for a neighborhood meeting. The living room was too warm. Heater turned up. Intimidation through discomfort. Smell of scented candles, wine, perfume, overwhelming and artificial. Classical music playing softly. Vivaldi, pretentious. Darlene's expression, forced smile, but her eyes were hard, calculating. Prey, sensing the trap. Darlene stood. Welcome to the Lake Harmon Shores Preservation Committee quarterly meeting. Tonight we'll address concerns raised by Mr. Whitfield and reaffirm our community standards. I interrupted politely. Actually, Darlene, before we start, I'd like to see the committee's incorporation documents and bylaws. State law requires they be available at all meet. Ings. She flustered. That's not on the agenda. It should be. You're operating as a corporation collecting funds, making legal claims. Show me the Michigan nonprofit registration. My lead attorney, Mitchell Crane, 52nd Silverhair, intervened. Mr. Whitfield, this is a private voluntary association. We're not subject to ghosts, Preston interrupted. Counselor, if it's a private voluntary association, it has no legal authority to collect fees or enforce restrictions. Which is it? Crane paused, looked at Darlene. Mrs. Crestwood, perhaps we should discuss this privately. Darlene lost composure. No, I'm not being bullied in my own home. Marcus signed the covenant when he bought his house. No, I didn't. And there's no recorded covenant, but we'll get to that. The atmosphere shifted, neighbors watching, some confused, some starting to understand. Betty stood.
Darlene, I want to see the financial records. Where did my $2,400 go?
Betty, sit down. This isn't Greg stood. Yeah, I paid $3,200 over 6 years. You said it was for road maintenance. I haven't seen anyone maintain anything. Temperature rising metaphorically and literally. Darlene's 3 lawyers exchanging glances, realizing they're in the wrong room. I spoke calmly. Darlene, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Show everyone your bank records for the Preservation Committee. Show them where the $34,500 went. Her voice shook with rage. How dare you? This is slander. It's only slander if it's false. I have bank records. Want me to share them? Preston set his laptop on the table, projector ready. Darlene looked at her lawyers, silent plea. Crane, Mrs. Crestwood, I think we should adjourn and reconvene with more preparation. No, we're doing this now with witnesses. I looked toward the door. Karen Sue and the photographer entered. Darlene saw the media. Face went pale. Now, I said, let's talk about who actually owns this nay. Iberhood. I opened my briefcase. Sound of latches clicking. Everyone frozen watching. Pulled out a document stack 6 in thick. County recorder stamps visible on top. Let's start with the basics. Darlene, can you show everyone proof that Lake Harmon Shores Preservation Committee is a registered entity? We've operated for 12 years. Not what I asked. Registration documents now. Her lawyers shuffled papers. They had nothing. She'd brought them for intimidation, not substance. Preston projected a spreadsheet on the wall. Borrowed projector, white wall became the screen. Showed all payments from neighbors, dates, amounts, check numbers. Total $34,500 collected over 8 years. Darlene claimed this money maintained roads, funded legal fees, covered administrative expenses. Let's see receipts. I don't have to. This is a voluntary association. Greg stood angry. You threatened to sick the township on me if I didn't pay. That's not voluntary. The testimonies began. Betty, voice shaking but determined. You told me after my husband died that if I paid, you'd make sure my driveway was cleared in winter. I paid $400 last year. Nobody cleared my driveway once. Alicia, the nurse, you threatened noise complaints about my nursing shifts if I didn't pay. I work nights. I need to sleep days. You extorted me. Tim and Jen, the young couple. We paid because Roland said our homeowner's insurance might have issues if we didn't. That's your husband threatening people using his business. One of Darlene's lawyers' younger associates stood. Mrs. Crestwood, did you threaten these people? Darlene cornered. I never threatened anyone. I was protecting property values, Preston, by collecting money under false pretenses. That's called fraud, led lawyer Crane. We were not briefed on these allegations. Mrs. Crestwood, we need to speak privately now. No, these people are lying. Marcus put them up to this. IP rejected the bank statements. Darlene's Preservation Committee account. Withdrawals visible on the wall for everyone to see. $800 a month to DK Consulting. Darlene Crestwood. $1,200 in administrative fees. No receipts. $3,500 for legal consultation. Paid to a neighbor's son for unrelated divorce advice. $2,000 for office supplies charged to a luxury furniture store. Darlene's been paying herself a salary from your fees. She spent $12,000 on personal expenses. The remaining $10,000 is sitting in the account untouched. This is textbook embezzlement. One person controlling money without oversight. Regular withdrawals to themselves. No receipts. That's theft. Always demand transparency and dual signatures for community funds. Darlene screamed. Actually screamed. You don't even belong here. You bought a cheap house and think you can tell us how to run our neighborhood. This is my street. I stayed calm. Lethal. Actually, Darlene, it's not your street. It's mine. Pulled out the final document. MLW Holdings LLC ownership papers. In 1993, the original developer went bankrupt. All subdivision assets were auctioned, including private roads, easements, and management rights. My father's pension fund bought them. He transferred them to me when he died. I own the roads. I own the access. I own the underlying structure of this entire subdivision. Silence. 5 full seconds. The clock ticking audible. That's impossible. Preston, it's recorded with the county. Want the recording number? I pointed to the map projected on the wall. See this 80-foot strip between your house and the main road? That's part of the assets I own. Your access to the public road crosses my property. You've been using my easement for 12 years without permission. Darlene sat heavily. The Victorian chair creaked like it might break. Roland entered from the kitchen. You're bluffing. We've lived here 12 years. Preston, A. Diverse possession requires 20 years in Michigan and only if the use is without permission. Mr. Whitfield just revoked permission. Roland, your property is also served by the private road I own. You've got 2 choices. Work with me or find out what happens when your easement gets revoked. Sheriff Braddock entered. Someone had texted him. Voices were getting loud. He took in the scene. Darlene crying, lawyers uncomfortable, neighbors angry, media recording. What's going on? Sheriff, I'm documenting theft and extortion. Mrs. Crestwood has been collecting money under false legal pretenses for 8 years. I'm filing formal complaints with the county prosecutor and attorney general tomorrow. These neighbors are witnesses. Braddock looked at Darlene. Ma'am, is this true? No answer, just sobbing into her hands. Karen Sue stepped forward. Mrs. Crestwood, I'm with the Lake Harmon Gazette. Would you like to comment on these allegations? Photographer's camera. Rapid shutter clicks capturing everything. Get out of my house. All of you smell of fear in that room. Sweat, stress, spilled wine, dark red stain on white carpet. Sound of Darlene's sobs turning to rage, shrill and breaking. Tension draining as neighbors realized they were free. Darlene's perfect living room disheveled, chaos replacing control. I stood addressing the room. Here's what happens next. Anyone who paid fees gets their money back from the $10,000 remaining in the account and from Darlene personally. All fake rules are void immediately. The private road needs maintenance. I'll form a proper legal transparent homeowners association if everyone wants one. With elections, bylaws, real financial oversight. Stunned silence. Then Betty started clapping. Greg joined. Alicia. Others followed. Applause filled the room. Not triumphant, cathartic, relieved. The three attorneys gathered their papers, leaving quickly. Crane to Dar. Len. We'll send our bill. You'll need criminal defense counsel. We don't do that. Darlene abandoned, looking small in her oversized house. I turned to Roland. You and Darlene have 30 days to repay every neighbor she extorted, full amounts with interest. Or I file criminal charges and revoke your easement access. Your choice. Roland defeated. How do we don't have not my problem. You benefited from her scheme, figure it out, we left together. Me, Preston, the neighbors, media following, asking questions. Darlene alone in her living room. Empire collapsed week 1 after the meeting. Darlene and Roland scrambled to repay neighbors. They sold the Lexus, that white SUV with the LK Shore 1 plate, got $48,000. Roland cashed out his whole life insurance policy for $31,000 more. Payments started flowing. Each neighbor received a check, certified funds, with a lawyer-written apology letter. Hollow but legal. Betty received her $2,400, deposited it, then donated $1,000 to the local animal shelter in Larry's memory. The county prosecutor filed charges, fraud, embezzlement, extortion. They offered Darlene a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to misdemeanor fraud, avoided jail because restitution was already paid. 2 years probation, community service, permanent injunction against forming any neighborhood association. Roland wasn't charged, but his insurance agency lost clients. Reputation ruined in a small town. Within 6 months, the agency closed. Roland took a job at State Farm as an employee, not owner. They couldn't afford the $890,000 mansion on Roland's new salary. Listed the house in March, sold for $8.25, took the loss, moved to a condo 45 miles outside town, smaller, anonymous. On a sunny Saturday morning, we watched the moving truck leave, sound of the diesel engine fading down the street. Betty said to me, I thought I'd feel more satisfaction. Mostly I just feel tired. Jew. Stice isn't always satisfying, I told her. Sometimes it's just necessary. I called a neighborhood meeting at the community center. Not anyone's house this time. Proposed an actual voluntary HOA for road maintenance only. Structure elected board of 3 people. Annual budget public financials. Professional management company. Dues $150 a year. Reasonable specific purpose. All neighbors approved, including the new family that bought another property. They elected me treasurer. Unanimous vote. I immediately hired an independent auditor. Proper HOAs protect everyone when done right. Recorded bylaws, democratic elections, transparent finances, limited scope. The difference between a community association and a dictatorship is accountability. Always demanded. I used my private road ownership to create something positive. The Lake Harmon Public Access Fund. Converted the vacant lot I'd inherited into a public kayak launch. Partnered with the County Parks Department. Small parking area, boat ramp, nature trail, grand opening on July 4th, town celebration, barbecue, kids fishing. Zoe cut the ribbon. Dedication plaque read in memory of Matthew Whitfield, a union man who taught his son to stand up for working people. Cost me $15,000 out of pocket, worth every penny. Late summer evening, Zoe's fishing from the dock again, golden light across the water. Daddy, why was Mrs. Crestwood so mean? Some people think being in control makes them important. They forget being kind is what actually matters. Are we staying here forever? If you want, this is home. Betty became Zoe's honorary grandmother. Bakes cookies, babysits, tells stories about Larry. Greg the plumber and I became friends. We fished together, watched football. We started an annual block party tradition every September. Casual, genuine, nothing like Darlene's forced committee meetings. 1 year later, I'm standing at the lake. Edge, same spot as that morning when the sheriff showed up. Full circle. I think about my father, the inheritance I didn't know I had, unexpected justice. I realized my real estate skills, finding hidden value applied to life itself. See what others miss. Be patient, then take precise action. I'm not semi-retired anymore. I started a consulting business helping people fight HOA fraud. Website, referrals, Pruno work for those who can't afford it. First client, woman from Indiana. Similar situation. First thing I told her on the phone, get the county records. Everything starts with knowing who actually owns what. Karen Sue's newspaper article ran front page. Local man exposes years-long neighborhood extortion. Went semi-viral, picked up by state news all over Reddit. Thousands of people sharing their own HOA nightmares in the comments. My advice got repeated. Document everything. Check county records. Don't assume people have authority they claim. 3 months later, I received a letter from a law firm in Ohio. Our client read about your situation and would like your assistance. Her HOA is foreclosing on her home over $400 in unpaid fees for a pool that doesn't exist. I smiled and reached for the phone, but that's a story for another time. If you've got an HOA nightmare story, drop it in the comments. Let's see how many of us are dealing with petty tyrants who need to be taken down a notch. And hit that subscribe button because next time we're talking about a woman who outsmarted a predatory lender trying to steal her grandmother's farm. You won't believe what she found in the mortgage documents. Some battles are worth fighting, especially when you know the system better than the bullies.